Depression is a huge topic in society now. The latest estimates suggest that maybe 20% of the population is either anxious or depressed at any one given moment. And they say that up to 80% of the population will experience some bout of depression at some point in their life, which is massive. So we really need to be talking about it. I think it's firstly important to understand the difference between what sadness is and what depression is, because they're two different ideas. So if you have had a traumatic or sad event happen in your life, for example, you've had the death of a loved one or you're going through a divorce, which are two very sad events in your life, it is natural to feel sad for a period of time. Sadness is a period of low mood, whereas depression is a feeling of low mood or depression or sadness for a lengthy period of time, definitely more than 2 weeks at least, but often it can be 6+ months, where you don't really know why you're feeling that way. Depression is different when you compare it to sadness, because there's no real practical reason why someone is depressed. And so for someone to be depressed, they have to have a low mood or a sadness for at least 2 weeks, but usually it's 6 months or plus. And that's when people generally come to speak to someone like myself as a psychologist. You know, they wake up in the morning and life might be going really well on the outside, but they just have this feeling of either emptiness or boredom or low mood or sadness. We mentioned in other videos around this idea of boredom, how, you know, we love life to be easy. We might have all the things going our way, but there's a sense of boredom, or I think a lack of meaning in our lives. And this is a big thing when it comes to depression now. Of course, there's a number of different other aspects to depression. Sometimes low self-esteem comes into that quite a lot, or what Martin Seligman talks about, learned helplessness. Why should I bother? There's no point. I'm going to fail at this thing anyway. I'm no good at it. And of course, if there is enough failure that you happen to have in life, you get to this point of learned helplessness, which is an aspect of the depression. But the way to overcome depression is you start with your basic daily routines, believe it or not. People think, oh, well, it's some complex psychological problem back to my childhood that I need to get my head around before I could possibly ever think to feel better about myself. But it's the practical things, the daily routine that you need to be getting right firstly. It's doing activities that bring you joy. As Martin Seligman talks about, like he calls it the signature strengths. We're always talking about in terms of depression of why you're wrong, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're ADHD, you're borderline, you're bipolar, whatever the label is. But we're not looking at our strengths. And there's this signature strengths inventory that you can do, which identifies your 5 signature strengths. And I remember one of mine was humor. So he says, if you know what your strengths are, you try and use them every day. So this is kind of like a positive psychological approach as a way of feeling better about yourself. Now, for some people, the depression is chemical, and counseling or positive psychology or structuring your day is not going to be enough. You know, you're going to have to go and talk to your GP or even a psychiatrist, and you're going to have to go on some types of antidepressants. And that's fine. That's what the medication is for. If your symptoms are so strong that you can't get through the day, you'd be silly not to get that help. But of course, if you are getting the antidepressants, make sure that you do actually go and speak to a psychologist and try and do things that you can control to help you feel better about yourself, because no one wants to be on antidepressants for the rest of their life. It's not like a long-term solution to the problem. Another aspect of depression is our thinking. Sometimes our thinking can not be rational. And what people do is, when we get into an irrational headspace, which is often based on emotions, I'm not good enough, or things are never going to change, we try and create rational thought to get ourselves out of an irrational headspace. How do you get yourself out of this headspace? The best way that I find is actually trying to understand what the emotional response is. So if you're feeling like nothing you do is good enough, say it's academic stress, you don't think that you're smart enough or that there's any way out of this hole that you've created yourself, or that you're not going to get a good mark on this assignment, trying to work out how to get yourself out of the hole or trying to work out what the answer is to the assignment is not going to get you out of the depression. You've got to get to the emotion that is, I feel like there's no way out. I feel hopeless. And actually understand that. Now, how do you understand it, you might ask? Journaling is a great way. Spend half an hour just journaling. Take out a Microsoft Word document, take out a piece of paper, whatever your preferred method is, and just write about what you're noticing about how you're feeling in that particular moment. Don't try and analyze it too much, just stay in the emotion. Lie down if you want and just try and close your eyes and get to what you are actually feeling. Doesn't mean you're going to be feeling horrible for the rest of the day. Doesn't mean after you express whatever you're feeling, it means you're going to feel better straight away. But just that mental experiment almost of what am I feeling at this particular moment in time is generally a very good solution to those moments when you are feeling down or you're feeling depressed. In terms of practical strategies for combating depression, there are about 3 or 4 that I can think of that I want to give to you today. And level 1 is really about structuring your day, having a very clear daily routine from looking at the first 60 to 90 minutes of your day, making sure that you minimize technology, making sure that you are responsible about what media you choose to consume. And then also it's about diet and exercise, getting all that stuff right. Now level 2 is the more sort of complicated stuff. So if you are in a spot of depression and sadness, you need to combat it through understanding what that feeling is. And that is mainly through just being with yourself. So that can be lying on your bed and just appreciating what the feeling is that you're feeling. And another strategy related to that is writing your feelings down in journaling. So take 20 minutes to 30 minutes just to write down, to describe what it is that you're feeling in that moment. Now, of course, these aren't all the answers, but these are some. And one final approach is social support. All the studies say that if you are going through stress or depression or sadness, if you have the appropriate social support around you, this buffers the effects of depression and anxiety in your life. And if you are suffering from, we call this the bored funk, where nothing really excites you anymore, the best way to overcome this is to get yourself a little bit dirty. What I mean by this is to sign up to this Tough Mother competition, sign up to go on a marathon, sign up to star in a play, do things that might not have a practical benefit to you making more money or getting more friends in life, but they actually feed your soul a little bit and they meet that need.